Brett, is there any particular format that we should be following, or are people just free to ask questions?
For this particular session, my understanding is that it's open to if you folks are either doing another in-depth presentation or just an open forum for questions from the attendees that are in this session. So it's pretty much up to you folks.
Oh, I see. Thanks, Brett. Jenny, you want to just do that introduction again, as well as now that it's recording?
Did you say Jen Lee or Janet?
Janet.
No.
Oh,
I thought you were Jen Lee. I was like, wait, what?
So I guess somebody had asked a question as to what the outcome of this would be, and we're basically looking for a chatbot where somebody can input their question, their COVID-19 related question, and then very easily be able to get the information that they're looking for. Because currently COVID-19 information is scattered throughout various websites. So we're hoping that you folks will build a chatbot that will allow people to go to one place and get the answers to all the questions that they may have. So any questions that you guys have for us?
You guys post the resources of where these questions would lead people?
yes, we'll definitely post that in the Slack channel, and we can add it to the chat here if that'll help.
Let me add on to that as well. The thing is with the chatbot is that while yes, you can have a set of specific questions, one of the things with chatbots is it's natural language learning, in which you could ask kind of alternatives of questions, similar questions, or even questions that kind of relate but don't, kind of thing. And the idea is for the chatbot to kind of understand that. So while yes, chatbots is a broad I guess topic, one subset of that is the natural language learning aspect of it. So that's also one thing to look into when building these systems.
I got kind of a rookie question, rookie hackathon question, first time participating. Will we have an opportunity to ask people like you, at the state, hey, can you clarify this requirement? Because I'm looking at the document, I don't know what you call it, challenge. It's a 2-page document. It has a couple links on it, but if we need clarification, is there opportunity to get clarification on requirements, and how would we go about doing that?
Yes, absolutely. So there is a Slack channel that we have. It's NIC_Hawaii_chatbot. So if you join that, we'll be on there, so you can ask questions there and we'll respond.
Oh, great, thanks.
I got a question. So the requirements page states that the chatbot function should function on multiple platforms, both desktop and mobile. Now, most websites and companies have their chatbots implemented in a purely online manner. Do you want a mobile application to accompany this, or will just a website suffice?
Yeah, I think the idea behind that was that it'd be not necessarily a mobile app, or definitely not a mobile app, but responsive. So it works well on
Got it.
various
All right,
devices.
thank you.
For the web app compared to the mobile, or using it on desktop versus using it on mobile, would it be okay to add a lot more information on the side that is relevant to? Because there's going to be a lot more space on the page.
I would say there's two ways to go about this. Is yes, you can. You know how some chatbots kind of are like a little thing off to the bottom right, kind of like a pop-up window kind of thing. And
Right.
yeah, so I would say if you want to go that route, yes, you know, you could have, you know, information of COVID, or not just COVID, you know, but information about this chatbot in general, how to use it, some information on that. The other way to go about this is to create a dedicated desktop app, meaning the whole interface would be kind of like a kind of like the chat interface, the chatbot interface. That works well if, say, you were creating like a mobile app, or not mobile app, but a responsive app, right? Because then you have more limited space on a mobile phone, so it would be, you know, just kind of take up the whole viewport of the mobile device. So there's two ways you could go about this, but and I think either one would work out well.
Okay. Thank you.
There was a question from Yuan regarding that the challenge is specified data set to be used from the HawaiiCovid19.com website. But the question is there an API, or I believe database or spreadsheet that they can tap into, and or are you expecting to collect the data off the main website?
So that's a good question. I don't think at this point there is a data set. Those sites are not owned by us. So it'd have to be pulling the information from there.
Yeah, and I would say for the purpose of this is, you know, you don't. I wouldn't say you'd have to bring in all the data sets, as long as you can demonstrate that you can present at least you know, certain maybe more important data sets. But the I wouldn't say you'd have to take the whole site and try to incorporate it into a chatbot, because, you know, that's pretty time consuming. I think more so the purpose of this is just that you can, rather than doing the whole thing. As far as the COVID-19, the Hawaii COVID-19 website, I don't believe they have an API. If I'm looking at their data dashboard, I think it's running through. Don't really know what Microsoft Power BI. I don't know if there's a public API that you can access, but definitely big points if you can discover that and incorporate it in. And then also to add on to that, while, you know, the dashboard is kind of more just statistics, I would say. I mean, you could know more about cases and, you know, infection rates, kind of like I guess there's also like areas as well. You know, that's not the whole thing with this COVID-19, you know, chatbot. There's also other things, like, say, you know, testing locations, where you can find the nearest testing location, and just other questions kind of thing, like that. So not really specific to statistics per se. So other things to think about.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's so much information out there. I think the key is to think about, what do you think the public is going to be looking for and asking for and have potentially difficulties finding. And that's probably what you want to focus on. And that could be, not just people from the state here. It could be folks on the mainland that are looking to travel here and they want to know information about, what do they need to do to be able to take the 72-hour prior to travel test and things like that. So focus on what you think is the most important thing.
Yeah, and also with these kind of things, think about how like you would ask these kind of questions and how you would look for this information. That's all part of UX, user experience kind of thing. And it's not the same for everyone. So that's kind of like why chatbots were, that natural language learning kind of thing. It's because everyone asks a question a different way, right? And the aim of a chatbot is to kind of they're called intents, right? You want to figure out what the intent of the person asking the question. And so whether a person asks it this way, a person asks it this way, they're all kind of looking for the same information. And that's the purpose of this project, is to just present that information regardless of how it's asked or typed, kind of thing. So
For the top 5 questions, do you want them to be, for instance, automatically updated by what the most popular request by the chat box is, or would you rather have it be from Google's top 5 or the top 5 searched on Bing or something like that?
It would be from what's being asked through the chatbot.
Okay, and so it should be consistently updated with as the people are using it.
So yes and no. So you can't really, unless you have analytics to work off of from the beginning,
Right.
you don't really know what the top questions are, right? And so that's why some of these chatbot I guess providers or tools that you can use, they have analytics built in, so you can actually see what's asked more on, and you could you would refine your I guess answers accordingly. So I really don't know what the top 5 questions are of regarding COVID. So but I think just the fact that I don't know if we're really looking at mainly answering the top questions, or just questions in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got another question. What kind of data do you want displayed to you, or like what kind of data do you want to receive from the chatbot?
Good question. So with and I haven't used a lot of chatbot tools, and the one I have used, which I'll probably demo in a bit, is Dialogflow, and this is a product offered by Google Cloud. And so there is, and when I demonstrate it, you can see more about this, is you can provide like kind of like static questions, static answers to a intent being a question, where what's the, well, that's not a good question, but actually if you were to say but then there's other ways to transmit or show different information to the user, and this would be through APIs. So a good example would be how many COVID infections are there in Hawaii. Someone asked that. Then you could actually query an API or a data set. It could be just whatever. It could be, and query the latest number. and then present that number to the user. Another alternative that you could do would be, this is kind of going into more detail, would be how many COVID infections were there on October 1st. You know, this is more specific. And so if you had a data set that showed daily infections, you know, from the beginning to now, you could query, you know, infection rates for October 1st and present that to the user. So so those are the two, you know, general ways to send information to the user. One, using static, information that doesn't change. This would be just, I guess, you know, just static facts about COVID. And then ones that are more dynamic, ones that change, and ones that you could query. A good example would be like, where are there, or say, where's the nearest COVID-19 testing location? And so you could actually query the user's information, whether it be through an input, and they put their zip code or street address or something like that, or using the browser geolocation tools, which you can take the precise location, or even, you know, in mobile phones, you could use that and then run that against the query, and then find the nearest COVID testing center and present that to the user. So that's another way. So those are all the different information, you know, that's all the different information that you could send back to the user depending on what they ask.
What about
For
information
getting
sent
that
to you?
information, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What about information sent to you as, you know, as the people who would provide the service of the chatbot? Like, what kind of analytics do you want to receive? Like, how many people get asked a certain question, or stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, that would be really helpful as far as analytics go, and throughout the life of the chatbot, you can see what people are asking, what the trends are, that kind of stuff. So definitely some sort of analytics, whether it be through Google Analytics, or be it through the built-in tools of a chatbot tool of your choice.
For getting the user input information, you were saying, would that just be on the spot, or would you prefer user accounts or just admin accounts? And what would the admin accounts also entail?
Like, say, the end user, if they're asking a question, whether you want to have them like log in, is that what you're asking?
Well, like you said, if they're looking for a certain testing sites, locations, they can just put in their zip code. But would you also prefer that they have accounts that would have information like this stored, or since there would be so many users, it would probably be easier not to have any either, though?
I would say they're probably, I don't think like user accounts would be really needed, unless you're going into specific user information, that kind of stuff, which I don't think this project is really really calling for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And then would you want admin accounts that for that, and what would you like them to do?
Admin accounts would probably really just be for maybe the tool of choice that you're going to use for us to go in and take a look at the analytics, and then also, you know, probably being able to look at how it was all done, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
If you're asking maybe for like a dashboard, like if you could create a dashboard, like an admin dashboard, pulling in the data from the chatbot service that you used, I think that would be pretty great too. Jazz it up, make it, charts and, graphs and all that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be great. And then, I mean, it's not necessarily only an admin dashboard, but you can also present that as a public dashboard too, to show what the trends are, what people are asking, that kind of stuff.
And that could probably tie back into the top questions too, if it's a public dashboard.
Yeah, of course. So here's a question, I think, and this was the part 2 question from Frederick. Is there one that you think is not so good? Um, I just want to pose a question out there. Have anyone ever had bad experiences with chatbots? And if so, could they, share it?
Well, we probably all have had. I am frustrated as a consumer when the chatbot doesn't understand what I'm saying and doesn't give me a method to move in a different direction. You get kind of stuck. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, when you're stuck in a loop, it's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, so that's also one of the things you want to think about too when designing things like that is the user experience, right? So and those are really good points, and I think that's one of the biggest frustrations with chatbots is that you do get stuck in a loop sometimes. You keep asking the same question, the thing just says, "Sorry, I don't understand you," kind of thing, right? And there's no outlet, no different path to go off of. So that's also one of the other things you have to think about. And for the purpose of this, we don't have there's no customer service for this project. But I mean, if you could, build up, I guess, that functionality in, that would work out as well. Just another path to for them to get out of that loop.
Maybe just to add a little bit onto that, if somebody's using the chatbot and asking a particular question, if you're able to pull the data and send a direct response to that question, great. But if not, if it's something that maybe needs a little bit more information, you can try sending them to a site that has that information so that they can go somewhere else to find it rather than, be left with nothing there.
So if I understand it correctly, if I'm chatting with this bot and I just don't get the answer I need, there's no last resort. Okay, call this 800 number, go to this, log this case here, or is there? Like, can they log a case? Is that one of an outcome, a possibility as a part of this bot?
I would say, yeah. I guess the main focus of this is just to really try to narrow down what the person is asking, what the end user is asking, and that should be your fallback. And you should always have a fallback for everything. And the fallback would be either to, yes, log a case, talk to a live chat support agent, call a number, that kind of stuff. And part of that, and I wouldn't know if you could demonstrate it through this this project, would be to show that because 5 people were asking this question, but they didn't get their answer through the chatbot, and they kept being referred to technical support or even live chat support, that you're able to identify those questions and you're able to remedy the problem. Meaning that these 5 people asked a similar question, all related to this certain specific topic, but we for some reason didn't have this this answer in our data set or whatnot. And just being able to identify that these 5 questions didn't work and being able to fix it. So that would also be pretty good.
Well, a good chat bot is all about case deflection, but so do you have a case creation system that you can give us, or a link or something, or will that information be provided to us to incorporate into our bot chat answer if, all other avenues are exhausted? Here you can open a case here, click on this link. Will that link be provided?
Probably, I would say we wouldn't we don't have something like that, I guess for the time being. I think that if we can just show that you're going to another avenue of support, then that's fine.
What do you mean by another avenue of support?
Meaning just to show that it's your please go to this link. It can just link to Google for that matter, right? It doesn't have to go to an actual form itself. Just the fact that the deflection worked.
Yeah, a fake link for the purposes of the hack. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Or a fake 800 number, I suppose. Maybe could that be another thing we could do?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like I said, it's as long as it's an avenue of support that the end user can go through besides the chatbot, because obviously that's a last resort kind of thing, right? The chatbot didn't work for them, and we want to be able to get them that information. Yeah, so.
I have one other question. You guys are not COVID medical infectious disease experts, I assume. Is that kind of resource available from the state for us to interact with in terms of refining the requirements for a chat question and answer type scenario? I mean, I'm sure there's some medical aspects here that, you know, I certainly am not qualified to answer.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Janet.
I guess I was going to ask, are you asking because you want to ensure that the responses are accurate?
Yeah, I wanted to ensure that the medical technical nature of the Q&A back and forth between the customer and the bot, you know, makes sense from a medical perspective. And so in real life, you know, I would imagine a medical expert would need to be advising us on how to answer certain, you know, technical medical questions. Is that kind of resource available for the hack? I'm guessing no from the response, but I thought I'd ask anyways.
Yeah, currently we don't have a resource for that. I think we can go off of the two websites that we list on the document, which is hawaiicovid19.com and then the health.hawaii.gov/coronavirus disease 2019 as, you know, as accurate information that's being put out there.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would say that information would suffice as far as general information to the public. I think if you're kind of going into more detail about you know, medical stuff, that would be like a totally different kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So and I just noticed that Daniel joined us from Google. So we're actually gonna be, I'm actually gonna probably demo one of the things that I created. I think it was about 3 years ago. It was a prototype using at the time, I guess it was called API.ai, and the name changed somewhere in between to Dialogflow. And you know, Daniel, if you wanna jump in and explain some things that I probably missed, but it's been a while since I used Dialogflow.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, Dialogflow is just, there are different ways to do this, right? People sometimes say chatbot, right? Sometimes say it's a virtual agent. Sometimes they say it's a digital assistant. In a nutshell, it is a way how do you communicate, or I said to like a robot instead of a human being. And this technology has been using adopt quite a while, right? And in many use cases, let me just give you an example for now. One is this technology is being adopted very rapidly, especially in this year because of COVID-19. A lot of people, for example, like, you know, apply for insurance, unemployment benefits, right? Trying to find out where can I get a COVID test, right? Trying to figure out where things are. But a lot of times the cost center is overwhelmed, right? And so simple things like I'm just trying to figure out where can I, where's the location, where can I get my test, what is the status of my employment benefit, even where am I going to apply for this, right? General information. So instead of have those, human agent or call center be able to answer those calls, answer those questions, right? The idea of a chatbot is really what we call digital assistant, be able to acting using machine learning AI technology, be able to help you to answer as like a real person to answer those questions. Any question that comes out, be able to answer that. If questions about, hey, I'm living this area, where's the closest test center that I need it, right? You may Google it and go search for where's the close location for test. But you can build those digital assistant chatbot. What Google's technology behind this is called Dialogflow. In a nutshell, is a technology that will allow you to using AI machine learning ability to answer those questions. And the capability, thinking about this, is not like the traditional chatbot or the digital assistant we're talking about. Sometimes you have to program this. When I say program this, is like you have to think about this every single possibility of this, right? A typical call center, we're calling the numbers here. So we'll say ask 0, ask, press 1, press 2 for, getting to a certain menu, right? And then we'll answer certain type of questions. If you ask a question, if it is total out of script, but the AI comes in, will allow you to really, being very dynamic, out of script, like a human to human conversation. Not only that, it'd be able to handle multiple languages too, right? And be able to answer, like sometimes you don't even know how to express yourself, right? You maybe speak the language with accents. So the idea, the machine behind this, be able to have the ability to understand all that and be able to not only do that, but also maybe calling a backend system, right? So for example, right now, I'm trying to make an appointment for DMV. It's going to be very difficult to renew my license, right? It'd be nice to have a chatbot, someone on the machine side will be tell me how to fill the applications, right? Make an appointment for me, for example, right? And then I don't have to call in the DMV numbers. I'll go to a place that's waiting in a long line, put on my mask on, right? So those are the things that what chatbot can deliver and help you and be able to call in the backend system, right? And whether it's a database and all that, be able to retrieve data, make an appointment for you, input your information that's in there. So this is kind of like a chatbot or Dialogflow in a nutshell.
Great, thank you, Daniel. That was good. And yeah, so let me go ahead and just show you an example that I created. And I am not affiliated with Google, unlike Daniel, so I'm not trying to sell the product, but this is just to show how this Dialogflow has kind of helped me create this tool. And this tool was a prototype. We actually wanted to, our company actually wanted to kind of have like a customer service kind of chatbot, but then we kind of realized that people can just ask all sorts of questions, and it didn't really didn't really pan out. But to kind of demonstrate how this could work, I actually created a little tool. And let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, share. All right, can you guys see my screen? All right, cool. So this was something that I created a while ago, and okay. And so, it's just, so this is kind of like HelpBot. That's what we kind of called it, and it was in beta, and that's the date for today. But this was actually created back about 3 years ago. And then, so right off the bat, you can see that, aloha, welcome to Hawaii, or right now it's NIC Hawaii chatbot. And it kind of just presents you kind of the topics that you could ask about. And so this portion of the app itself is not Dialogflow. It's it was a custom built. I think it was built on Angular. And all it's doing is it's capturing what the user asks, and then sending it off to Dialogflow. I was about to say API.ai, but Dialogflow, and then retrieving and Dialogflow is doing its thing with trying to figure out what the user is asking, and then sending the information back and then presenting it back. So I mean, one thing, just a demo here, you can see. So my information about business, right? So it's like, how can I help you with your business? You can type so and so, so and so. You actually don't really need to kind of present these you can type or you can ask kind of prompts, because it should be powerful enough to understand the question that you're asking. So you don't even need to have to start with just say business, right? You can actually just start with, how do I in this case, like annual filings. It's like, when is my annual filing due? And so right here, you can see that the response that we had Dialogflow send back is the dates. Depending on when you register your business, I think is when your annual report is due. Annual report is done every year. And so stuff like that, you can also do like visitor information. It can be like, volcanoes, volcanoes, say someone like is worried, volcanoes in Hawaii. And, so you can see like, we made it so that it would just, present the information, and then you can hit, so like links, you would just hit like go, and it will take you off to, go Hawaii in this case. All right, so then over here is the admin for Dialogflow, and you can see how it's kind of broken out through like, business, camping, and so forth. Actually, I think this is the wrong one. I think it's this one, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I think this is the one. So you can see here, it's kind of just like broken out through different, I guess, sections. These are all the intents, and the intent is basically what the person is asking. So, let's say that volcano one, right? Volcano. That didn't come out. I don't know. I don't know why it didn't come out, but let's see if there's visitors right here. Volcanoes in Hawaii. So you see like training. So over here, so in this intent, you could give it like training phrases, and training phrases are, I think, or just all the different ways you can ask the question. So add user expression. So whether someone types on volcanoes in Hawaii, are there active volcanoes in Hawaii? It kind of just matches up, and along the way it kind of learns. And then this is the text response that you could send here, and that's exactly what we have here. And then you can also add a custom payload. In this case, the custom payload was a link, and it kind of just it opens, provides this link to go to this page in this case. And then there's also this part in fulfillment. So earlier when I was talking about like accessing data sets, whether public data sets or whatnot, I think you could, and I never tried this. I looked into doing it, but never really tried it. But you could add a webhook, and I think what this does is actually, I don't really know how it works, but I believe this webhook part is the part where you can actually query a data set and return the response back to the user. Sorry, Daniel, was that correct? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, fulfillment is where you're calling a backend system, right?
Right.
So let's say, two examples here. One is you want to book appointment, right? So you probably have to go to a scheduling system in the backend for a database, or sometimes people want to check a status for like their payroll, for example, right? And so it's just calling whatever the backend system that you want to call into, yeah, and retrieve information from it.
Right. Yeah, and so a good example, and Daniel gave some good examples there, but a good example would be like earlier when I did the annual filing, when is my annual filing due? And it just gave the general information about the different quarters that you're supposed to file. An example would be you could put in, someone could put in like the name of their business. It could look up the business name, and it could query the business name and return the actual date. In this case, I don't think it works like that. I think it's just whenever in that quarter you query, but it could return just the quarter that you need to file your annual filing instead of all four, right? So that's a good example. And there's other ways to do it. If you incorporated a login, you could actually pull user info, and depending on what they ask, you can use that user info, such as their name and whatnot, to look up information. And I think that's pretty much it as far as I mean, there's other parts to Dialogflow that I've never really touched on. All I really touched on was intents and I guess the training part and training or validation part. I think those were the parts where you actually actually corrected, or ones that didn't work, you can actually say that it's actually for this and whatnot. So yeah.
Can I just bring to, since you have this Dialogflow interface here, the integration part of it is you can actually connect this quickly to any of the, if you go just above training, like integrations. This is actually can do quick integration with any of the telephony companies or like any social media phone gateway. So it's a one click, they will, can connect to, like we're using Slack today, right? So you can actually integrate with Slack or WebML, right, Line, or just simple phone message. So that's like any other social media stuff you can integrate with Dialogflow. So that's a really easy way to have the interactions here, right? And the other thing at the very bottom, there's one called analysis. Analysis is also interesting. Is like, sometimes you want to just see the interactions. Of course, there's not a lot of data that's in there. But let's say if you do integrate that with like a phone system, like an IVR system in the back, right, the call center, and recording, the conversations, you can actually give you sentiment analysis for like, whether if the customer calls to make the request, whether they're happy with their services or not, just by, understanding the voice tone or the request they have. So there's a lot of machine learning AI technology that's in there. And the Dialogflow also provides a bunch of pre-built agent, which means that, if you don't want to code anything from fresh at the very bottom, so there are actually a lot of those things, like for bank system, right, for car rental, coffee shop. So there's a lot of those open source code you can just use, right? And without, there's also one for frequent asked questions at the very top. So you don't really have to code everything from scratch. You can just borrow that open source module people already code and just be able to plug in.
Yeah, and I actually looked at some of these too. Actually, I think I had one. I created one from one of these pre-built agents, and that's kind of how I learned how the system worked in the beginning, because it was quite a bit. It was kind of daunting at first, I would say. But once I think I forget which one I used, but if you kind of just I guess in this case import it and look at just how it works in the intent and all that, you kind of get a better understanding of how it works. Yeah, so thank you, Daniel. So anyone have any questions by chance? I know we've been just talking for a bit and didn't really open up for questions.
There was a question in the chat, I'm not sure if it was fully addressed, but the question was around the data set for the purpose of this challenge. Is it essential that it's actually live data, or is it okay to use, I guess, in essence, dummy data to build the demonstration for this challenge?
I would say that live data is, I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of data sets you have access to, right? If you have access, like I think when I said earlier about the COVID-19 website, that dashboard, how it's being, I think how it's built with Microsoft. You can figure out, if you can find like um, the API or the data set to that and query with that, that'd be great. But if not, I mean, I would say dummy data is fine. I mean, we're not, I mean, this is not a live product kind of thing. For purpose and intent of demonstration, I think dummy data would suffice. But you know, to make it as close to realistic data as you can, I guess.
I mean, a potential for this is, you know, we did provide those two websites as to where to pull the information from. And ideally, this chatbot would eventually be something that's provided to the state, where somebody from the state DOH department or wherever could then update the knowledge base as needed, because the information is constantly changing, right? And you're not specifically going to know what that is at any particular time. So you're just kind of pulling the information as you have it. And then if this is used in the future, somebody else would be updating that information.
I had one other question. This may have been addressed earlier. Will the person interacting with the bot do so on one or both of the websites that were provided on the document, or is that where the entry point would be, or the interaction would take place?
I think if it works out really well and they would want to use it, then that could be an entry point for the Hawaii COVID-19 website. For the, I mean, purpose of this project, I guess you could kind of just mock up that that's the entry point, whether it's, you know, Hawaii, whether it's Hawaii COVID-19 or whether it's the state website, or even if it's just, you know, if it's standalone, you would need a entry like website. That could work.
Yeah, I mean, you guys don't have like a mock-up of the website for developmental purposes. I wouldn't assume that we could access, so we'd have to do a mock-up of some sort of a website.
I think that'll be actually easier if you did it yourself. I mean, I would say, you know, transit time having, you know, coming from us to add whatever solution that you have onto our mock-up site. I think that'll take more time than if you just created one yourself.
I just have a question regarding the Google platform and with respect to AI, and I know it sounds like that part of the strategy is the data set that are behind this, but kind of building on the question before about if you don't have the right data set, is it such that with AI or the platform that there's mechanism to drill into other sources that you might not know about, or something to that effect?
I'm not really getting the question, but if, say, like if you don't have the right data set,
yeah, I'm sorry, just to elaborate, like kind of like intelligence that goes beyond what you would, you know, manually or you know, build into your app, that it can actually go beyond it.
yeah, I guess, I mean, that would be something that would be really helpful. If we didn't have the data set available to you, you would point them to the right resource. Like say if it was a private, not private, but non-public data set that could only be viewed on a website, if you could deflect, you know, if that information wasn't available, then you could just take them to that resource. Yeah. And I think that's just through, the like with Dialogflow, just you can try to you could use it to try to figure out what the person was asking. You're trying to figure out their intent, but if all else fails, then it just wouldn't work. So actually, um let me share my screen again. Let me see, where is it? Over here. So we actually, there was this part where, I mean, if you typed in a rat gibberish, I mean, there's that part where it just says, sorry, I didn't get what you said. Would you like to contact technical support? And then there was also the ability to, I think I built this through the app itself. It wasn't really through Dialogflow, where you could, these were like quick responses, yes and no. So if you hit yes, then it would just spit you to like some sort of chat solution that we have. And if you hit no, then it would just be like, okay, thanks, didn't find what you wanted, but if you had another question, you can ask. So you can see how in this case, and what we talked about earlier, is if the person didn't find the information that they needed, then they could be we could provide them another avenue of support, in this case technical support, live chat technical support. So yeah, so that's that. I think there was a question about data sets. We don't have really any data sets, I would say, for this. But if you can find data sets, public data sets, that would be great. Like I said earlier, the Hawaii COVID-19 website has that dashboard on there, and if you can access that, then that'd be great.
Is there any specific data sets you're interested in?
I would say mostly the ones that deal with COVID, related to COVID-19. I think some of the big ones would be like bringing up statistics of COVID-19, testing locations, general information about that. I would say just mostly the information on those two sites that we provided.
Yeah. So in the Google Cloud environment, there's a technology called BigQuery. It's like a cloud data warehouse environment. In that, Google probably provides about close to 100 public data sets from different industry vectors. There's a lot of those COVID-19 data sets that's available. We provide this year. Those are free public data sets. We are just keep updating those. We have a lot of those data sets, healthcare data sets, COVID-19s, some of the largest city, for example, the city of San Francisco, like the 311 data sets, right? And all those are available. So you guys can probably take a look at, so for some of those projects, just for the purpose of doing some of the data visualization and you want to display those, right? You can definitely play with those data sets. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I've looked at that the BigQuery stuff from Google, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So yeah, thank you. That's definitely a resource that you could use for this. I'm not sure. I can't remember if there was very specific Hawaii ones, but I mean, for this, even like if you use, like I'm sure San Francisco has a ton of data in there, since there's more tech oriented kind of thing. But even if you use data sets from like San Francisco, that kind of stuff, just to demonstrate that it does work, and we could use it for Hawaii, I think that would be great.
Yeah, there are specific data sets, COVID-19 related data sets that I think covers all 50 states, right? Even worldwide. Now, things like you're familiar with, like the Johns Hopkins data sets, right? So you can like really drill down into, for that particular island counties and figure out the demographics and, where are those cases right now, right? So people sometimes use those public data sets along with their own, private organization data, for example, hospital data, right? In conjunction with, those public data sets, so they can figure out, for example, the new vaccine may come out very soon, right? So ready to figure out, where the hotspot is and where are the demographics, the people that need those, vaccine when those becomes available. So people really take advantage of those right now.
And I think we're close to time right now. think we have about 2 minutes left for this, and I want to just add that while I did demonstrate Dialogflow, that's not the only solution out there. It's a great product. And if you want to use this for this project, I would say it'll work really well. But there are other solutions out there, and you are free to use other platforms out there. So that's really yeah, that's that.
Thanks for all the great info.
Thank you all for participating. And remember, we have our
Both.
Slack channel, so feel free to continue to ask us questions there.
Yeah.
Roger that.
And I want to thank Daniel for stepping in and also talking about Dialogflow. It was a lot of information.
Okay.